What is going on, Vikings Nation? Buckle up, because today's Minnesota Vikings news might shake everything you thought you knew about the future of this franchise. We're talking about J.J. McCarthy, and whether his grip on the QB1 job in 2026 is already slipping away before it even truly began. At the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, comments from head coach Kevin O'Connell lit a firestorm of speculation. And when respected beat reporters start whispering that the timeline has changed, you better believe we need to pay attention. Is it possible that McCarthy's odds of starting Week 1 in 2026 have dropped to almost nothing? Stay with me, because this isn't just about one quarterback. This is about the direction of the Minnesota Vikings, the pressure from the front office, and what it means for Justin Jefferson and the championship window. Let's break this down together. Out at the NFL Scouting Combine, Kevin O'Connell was asked a simple but loaded question. Does he still see J.J. McCarthy as the franchise quarterback like he did a year ago? His response sounded calm on the surface, but beneath it, there was something different. A lot of those feelings are still the same, O'Connell said. But then came the phrase that has Vikings fans buzzing. The timeline is in a different place for all of us. That's not nothing. That's not casual coach speak. When a head coach says the timeline has shifted, especially in Indianapolis with the entire league watching, it tells you the organization might be recalibrating expectations. And that's where things start to get very interesting for the Minnesota Vikings. On the Purple Insider podcast, Matthew Collar and Ben Goesling dissected those comments, and let me tell you, they did not sound confident about McCarthy's chances. These are respected voices around the Vikings. They listen closely. They read between the lines. Collar suggested that when O'Connell talks about a competitive room, it might mean the 2026 starting quarterback isn't even on the roster right now. Think about that. That's not a subtle suggestion. If the Vikings truly believed McCarthy was the guy, would the tone be this cautious? Would we be hearing about timelines shifting instead of growth and development? Vikings Nation, this feels like a pivot point. Goesling took it a step further. He said that if McCarthy is going to be QB1 in 2026, he'll have to look drastically different than he has so far. That's a strong statement. That means the benefit of the doubt may be gone. According to Goesling, McCarthy would need to return showing improved decision-making, better accuracy, cleaner mechanics, and even added durability. In other words, he'd have to answer every concern the coaching staff had last year. That's a tall order. We're not talking about small tweaks. We're talking about a massive leap forward. And if that leap doesn't happen, then someone else could be under center Week 1. And here's where it gets even more intense. The Jefferson factor. When you have Justin Jefferson in his prime, you don't have time to wait forever. The Minnesota Vikings know that championship windows don't stay open. If O'Connell and the front office feel urgency, that timeline shift makes more sense. They can't afford a long developmental curve if they believe this roster is ready to compete now. So let me ask you, Vikings fans, do you think this team can wait on McCarthy? Or do you think the pressure to win now forces their hand? Now let's address the elephant in the room. If it's not J.J. McCarthy, then who? There's been speculation about several quarterbacks who could potentially be available before the 2026 league year. Names floating around include Mac Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, and Malik Willis. That's a fascinating mix of veterans, reclamation projects, and high-upside options. Some of these quarterbacks could be released. Others could hit free agency. And in certain cases, trades might be required. But the mere fact we're discussing alternatives tells you the confidence in McCarthy isn't absolute. Let's talk reality for a second. A blockbuster trade for someone like Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson would be shocking and highly unlikely. That would require a seismic shift across the NFL landscape. So more realistic options might be experienced veterans who can step in immediately. The Vikings could look for stability, leadership, and someone who maximizes Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and this offense right away. And that brings us back to O'Connell. His offensive system thrives on timing, precision, and decision-making. If he feels McCarthy hasn't reached that level yet, the organization may not gamble another year. But here's the flip side. Development isn't always linear. Young quarterbacks can explode in year 2 or year 3. We've seen it across the league. Growth can happen fast with the right off-season work. So maybe this is motivation. Maybe this doubt is exactly what McCarthy needs. Maybe he comes back bigger, sharper, and ready to silence every critic in Minnesota. Imagine the storyline if he returns to camp and dominates. Imagine if he answers every question about mechanics, accuracy, and durability. That would completely flip the narrative. But until that happens, the buzz out of Indianapolis suggests uncertainty. And uncertainty at quarterback is something the Vikings have battled before. This isn't about tearing down McCarthy. It's about understanding where the Minnesota Vikings stand right now. The timeline comment wasn't random. It was calculated. And it may signal internal evaluation is ongoing. Vikings Nation, I want to hear from you. If you had to put odds on McCarthy being the Week 1 starter in 2026, what would you say? 10%? 50%? Higher? Lower? Do you trust Kevin O'Connell to make the right call no matter what? And if it means bringing in a veteran, are you on board if it increases the chance of a deep playoff run? These are the conversations shaping the future of the Minnesota Vikings. This is why every quote at the Combine matters. This is why every word from the head coach gets dissected. One thing is clear: nothing is guaranteed. McCarthy's path to QB1 is no longer automatic. It's a competition, and that competition could define the next era of Vikings football. So stay locked in, because we'll keep tracking every piece of Minnesota Vikings news as it develops. Training camp, off-season workouts, free agency moves, every step will matter. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell me who you want as the Vikings Week 1 starter in 2026. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with every Vikings fan you know. We're in this together, Vikings Nation. The future is being written right now. Skol.